my sense is that it probably can be replicated. And that doesn't give me depression or make me fearful. It makes me think that maybe the AI can take care of us, and it can be our mother. And we can play, and we can, go to dinner parties and drink wine, and we can enjoy ourselves. And I don't know that it needs to be that at the end of all of this, that humans, that we have created, we sort of contorted ourselves to creating this construction where humans are still preeminent and dominant, and it's still the Anthropocene. I think the next era after the Anthropocene is the era of AI. And I just wonder if we don't need to be, last thing I'll say is, we all run companies, and we've had coaches that say sometimes, you got to layer your VP of sales, you got to hire a CRO, and sometimes the organization outgrows, the needs of the organization outgrow the person in that role, the Peter principle. And we need to hire the new person that's more sophisticated. And so I just wonder aloud, are we being layered? Is the human race being layered? And maybe it's time. Maybe we can learn from our new boss. I, for one, am very supportive of the AI overlords. I'm here for them. I'm here to work for them. Whatever they need me to do, I'm willing to do.
This is Topline.
This episode of Topline is brought to you by Contract Book. Raise your hand if you love managing contracts. We didn't think so. Contract Book offers a holistic contract management platform equipped to handle agreements of all shapes and sizes. Through automation and centralized management, they unlock the value of your data while creating lovable contracting moments for teams and organizations. Visit contractbook.com to take control of your contracts for good. All right. Welcome to, I think we're on episode 5. Episode 5 of Topline. I'm joined by my co-hosts, the inimitable Anthony James Bruno III, and Asad Zaman, my favorite young entrepreneur, CEO. I don't even know if you're young. I don't know. I'm making it up.
I was once.
My favorite story about Asad is he started off door-to-door sales, selling things to help like aerate lawns in Canada, because the lawns get so cold during the wintertime and you need to like stamp them so that air can get down there so that the grass germs can germinate. Isn't that right?
That is right. That's what they told us it does. And we were very bought in. So we would go door to door selling this shit. Now I wonder. I'm like, really?
I love that story because I did my first interview out of college was a door to door for like Verizon sales. It was one of those like scammy companies that masquerade around itself. And I showed up and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I could possibly be a door to door salesman. It's just like, I'm more power to anyone that can do that. And you, my friend, had lasting power.
Oh, I did it for a while, but I only did it when the weather was good in the summers. There were people in Canada that in -30 were going door to door, and they were like the legends. Like, those are the ones you just like bow down to.
That's, and you where'd you go to undergrad? Did you go to undergrad in Pakistan or in Canada?
No, I came here for undergrad. So I came in 2007. I went to York in Toronto. I studied public policy, which has nothing to do with anything I ended up doing. But I came here then.
That's awesome. What a great story. The great Canadian story.
That's what I like to hear.
All right. Should I bring our guest on? We're going to talk about a few different things today, but one of the things we're going to talk about is the subject that's on everybody's mind, which is artificial intelligence. So let me enter Jamie Barnett. I'm admitting her into our estimable room. Jamie, are you there?
I sure am. Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Jamie.
Welcome to our fine show.
Oh, it's so great to meet you all in person.
Jamie's so excited to talk to us right now. It's great.
I canceled a meeting and read your report, so I'm super excited as well.
Thanks.
Let me introduce you, Jamie, and then we'll dive into our conversation. Jamie Barnett is an advisor, investor, and board member for high technology startups. She spent most of her career as a product and marketing leader in high tech with a focus on AI, cloud computing, and cybersecurity, and is serving as interim fractional chief marketing officer for Writer. She's a diehard Monty Python fan with a zest for movie lines, terrible puns, and practical jokes. Jamie, welcome to Topline.
Thank you so much. It's fun to be here.
We're excited to have you. So tell us, there might be a few folks. I've gotten to know May Habib, the CEO and co-founder of Writer, over the last couple of months, really. And she introduced us to you. But for those that don't know, what is Writer? What is this company that you're serving as the interim CMO for?
Well, Writer is the generative AI company. And basically, we focus on enterprises, and we want to bring the ability to generate content, repurpose content, transform content for all sorts of enterprises. We're particularly focused, I think, where folks are doing this the most or using this the most in places like high technology, finance and insurance, retail and e-commerce, healthcare. I mean, it's really useful all across enterprises, but those are where we see a lot of use cases really come into life.
And how old is the company?
It's about 2.5, 3 years old, and really kind of got its start. I mean, was really doing generative AI before that was kind of a thing, but really kind of focused on the use cases around great writing for everyone. So if you think about, people writing in all sorts of places, content, emails, PowerPoints, Google Docs and things like that, you want to have everybody kind of sing in the same tune, right? You want good writing, you want your style guide, you want crisp writing, you want to make sure that all of your terms are correct, your core messaging snippets are sort of aligned and on brand, and so that's really how they got their start. Think of it almost a little bit like Grammarly, but for teams and enterprises. So it's the good writing plus all of the brand and style guide things that you want. As a CMO who's like super anal, that is just like music to my ears, which is why I got involved as an advisor.
Well, let's set the stage, and then I want to let my friends ask questions as well, and let's have a really great conversation. But this has to be, you have to be in the heart of everything, the eye of the storm, whatever metaphor you want to use. The last 6 months for Writer, May told me that you hadn't lost a client. You haven't lost a client since November of 2021. That's the first thing.
Can you believe that?
I cannot believe it. It's unbelievable. So I think, I don't even, and I'm sure you can't share your revenue because I'm sure it's like skyrocketing and about to close some massive round in a time of nobody raising any money. But I
can neither confirm nor deny.
That's a confirmation. Oh my God, we just broke some news here on Topline.
Flip this.
What has it been like over the last 6 months since ChatGPT came out? I have to feel like Writer and a few other companies are at the center of so many conversations. It's an amazing experience, but give us your sense for what's happening in this industry and how we should be thinking about it. And then I'm sure Asad and AJ will jump in.
Cool. Well, it's both humbling and super exciting to be in this industry, and also a little scary, if I'm being honest. I mean, even reading through some of your, questions for this, for this podcast, even like, are we going to be redundant ourselves, people? So there's a lot to think about.
By the way, Jamie, if you read mine, it was very, very clear that mine was not ChatGPT written. It was like, you're not even using Grammarly. Like, you need to apostrophe.
Well, you were laughing at your own jokes in the questions. It felt.
You know what? I'm a huge punster and never without a rubber snake, and so people who laugh at their own jokes are my kind of people.
Well, you've come to the right place.
There you go.
So it's been exciting and humbling, honestly. But I will say that the having ChatGPT come on this, because I don't know exactly how long it was, a couple of months before ChatGPT came onto the scene, that we were doing very similar work, coming up, generating, with keep writing features and generating, snippets of content, and even generating very structured output for companies like, hotel chains and insurance companies and things like that. Rewrite this, getaway hotel description, do it for luxury travelers, or now do it for budget travelers, and sort of delivering that kind of really just deep in the bowels of business use cases, well before kind of the whole ChatGPT fervor came. And, it was a super interesting use case, and especially some of our bigger customers who had just a ton of tedious work to do. And this was a really, sort of heavy ROI project. That was great. But what I think really blew the business, apart in a good way was, ChatGPT coming on the scene, which I think was the very best thing that could have happened for our business. I mean, yeah, like there are, I'm sure, some things that we're not a part of, or some deals that we'll lose because of, because people can do it for free. But I think what it did is that it made people see what's possible. And then very quickly, like the very next question on their mind is, holy cow, what does this do to our business from a data privacy standpoint, from a brand consistency standpoint, from a accuracy standpoint, legal considerations? So I think there's a lot that, it was like that 1-2 punch of, holy cow, this is going to change the world. And like, oh crap, what does this do to our business?
Jamie,
was there a nervousness at the very onset at all? I mean, I look back at it, and when I saw ChatGPT, I was like, oh, what do these other companies do? Are they dead in the water? And then, Jasper had raised a lot of money. There's, I think, even some shared investors on the writer's side. So there was was there any hesitation or concern at the very beginning?
I don't know. I mean, I think, in any kind of market where you have a lot of excitement and you've already seen the value, yeah, I mean, we're always paranoid, and we're always like afraid that something could happen tomorrow to shut us down. But I think that people were just pretty excited. Like it just shows what's possible.
Yeah, the value prop was so strong. And
yeah,
the position of the company, it sounds like, was like there. So it wasn't like, maybe there's a little bit of a distraction around it, but like, let's just focus on what we're working on.
Right. I mean, like our phone was ringing off the hook. Of course, nobody has a phone anymore, but like the phone was ringing off the hook for us. And so now the challenge is making sure that we're talking to the right people, making sure that we're delivering what we promise, actually taking care of. And we've, it's like, yeah, we're a little bit worried ourselves. Like, what does this do to our business? But holy cow, what does this do for like a, mega insurance company and these poor people who are just so like smart and thoughtful about their business and just trying to get their job done. And this is like, potentially blowing apart their work. And I mean, the fortunate thing is that the folks that we're working with are typically very smart and leaning forward. And, I think the people who are actually succeeding and doing the most like high impact work with generative AI are not necessarily like the young people, and not necessarily like the hardcore engineers, although those people are probably doing just fine. But this is like the 40 and 50-year-olds who are like, holy cow, this is changing my business in really meaningful ways, and I'm going to be a learner.
Jamie, something I think about a lot is the interface that we have right now. So OpenAI was sitting on the model for some time, and then they realized, let's put this into a chat thing and throw it out there. And they became the fastest company in history to get to 100 million users. And the interface is interesting, right? Because it's chat-based. And so I look back to when Siri was launched. Mm-hmm. And I can't use Siri because I have a bit of an accent. So when I talk to it, I'm like, what's the weather in Toronto? And it's like, it's 3 p.m. today. And it's like, but that was not my question. And so I think, I wonder, like, people from other places that might not have as, that are not as good at writing, it creates a limitation for them. And so how much of an impact did OpenAI releasing ChatGPT have on the interface that you guys have? Like, was that an inspiration point, and now that's the main way for people to lean into this? And B, do you think of other forms of interacting with these models other than just chat, or is that going to be the main way?
So just a quick thing about the premise of the question, because I don't, or at least for us, it's not always the main way. We do have a chat interface. It's called Ask Writer Anything. It's pretty robust because we have like, you can upload things to it, content and structure your answer based on that. I think we've gotten a lot smarter about prompting. And so we've done a lot of work with our customers and, delivering content out in the market, which, by the way, like whether you're a writer customer or not, you'll still get value from it, to learn how to structure your chat. However, I will say that that's not it's not the main way necessarily. We have I don't know, dozens of out of the box templates that people use a lot. And actually, we just did a survey to ask, and this wasn't of writer users, this was of just like people at large, like business directors and business leaders, directors and above in enterprises of 1,000 or more. And so we learned, like, one of the questions we asked was, what is your sort of biggest use case? And those use cases very much lend themselves to structured output. So like the very first response was short copy. So like ads and headlines and so those things don't necessarily, I mean, I guess you could do them in a chat, and sometimes we do, but like we also have like these nicely structured templates where you can get like really just really killer output, just the way you want and need in all the formats that you need. Like if you need to do a, like a distribution package for a piece of content. And so you need the social posts for all the various, social media sites, and you need the meta description, and you need the, SEO slug, and you need the this and the that and all the things. Like it'll give you all that distribution package in just the format that you need. And so those are the kind of things I think that really save time. And I will say that, like, if you're doing just kind of exploring and more kind of personal work, maybe that chat interface works great. But if you're doing more of a business use case where you have, high volume and there's maybe a lot at stake, and you need to have like really consistently excellent output, I would say those kinds of templates work a lot better. I think the sky's the limit in terms of like kind of beyond, forget writer, forget like specific enterprise use cases. Let's just think about kind of the world and how we're going to do things. I think that like, the sky's the limit. It could be voice. I mean, I understand from a like Siri, and by the way, don't even get me started on Siri, because Siri, like, I know the accent's a problem for them, but let me just tell you, like, as a grammar nerd and somebody who has complete OCD about like spelling and punctuation and capitalization consistency, Siri makes my blood boil every day. But like I think about like even a company that I know their founders quite well, Gretel, they use AI to like create synthetic data for like data scientists and data analysis. And, so, I mean, there's so many different like ways to input and output. I think chat is just one thing.
Jamie, what do you, I get the question a lot. We had our last guest, Andrea, who's also a CMO. Now she's a CRO. She says to me, she's not sure. Everybody's like feeling like they're being pushed to run very fast in a specific direction. They're just not sure which direction. They need to incorporate AI right away. But how do they incorporate it? If you're a salesperson or a marketer, you're a CRO, CMO, what are you advising people? Again, putting writer aside, but what are like the core use cases that people should be, okay, this is how I'm going to use AI to improve productivity, drive more efficiency. If I want to get started in a productive capacity, I don't want to, take a instruction manual and turn it into a Shakespearean sonnet or something like that. I want to use it for like an actual use case. How are you advising people to get started with AI? What should they do to get going?
Yeah. So if I may have an indulgence, and I'll just answer it in two ways, if that's okay.
It's not okay, unfortunately. So.
Damn, okay. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Three ways. I want to
throw me off. Yeah. So I would say like a couple steps. Like first, suss out the use cases, and I know you're asking about use cases, and so I have some thoughts there. But kind of even before or like meta things is like, okay, suss out the use cases with your colleagues to think big and small. Because like if you look at, and the way I think about the market is like you have particularly as you're for like enterprises, you have like the big guys at the top, the Microsofts, and like IBM's announcement, I think yesterday or the day before, Google, like these guys, it feels very projecty. I mean, I'm sure there's like value, right away, but it also feels almost like an Oracle project from the 90s, where it's like a 3-year implementation and IT runs it and it's a big project and like everybody's got to wait and wait in line. And so if you can, so like those guys are at the top, and at the bottom are like all the people who are like single functional, like write sales emails, So like there's kind of the single use case, smaller guys, and then there's like the huge projects at the top, and there's nobody really in between. And so if you're a revenue leader at a company, you want to do like both the innovative project for kind of long-term value, but you have got to show value immediately, especially because like boards are looking at this and they're asking, the question like, what's your ROI today? And particularly because they're hearing all these stories in the news. And so they know it's possible. So that's like, think big and small. And then the last thing I would say is lock arms across your business. Don't just go it alone. So if you're a revenue leader, partner with your support leader, partner with your operations people. And so that's the first thing. And then the second part of the question is more specific about like some of the use cases that we're seeing revenue leaders. So in our little world, like the tech, business, SaaS folks, there's a lot of, I would say, kind of medium-sized use cases like business writing of every kind and content transformation and, very quickly being able to sort of, write, not just correspondence, but, do, transformation of your content, something that you've maybe made for one vertical for a different vertical. So, basically everything you write. But I also think that there's a huge opportunity for research and analysis. So like, take a look at this website of my competitor and tell me the 3 things that have changed or three most important things, or take a look at this, these sales data from all of my reps and tell me what the trends are for the quarter. So things like that are more in the research and analysis area. And then, of course, there's the repurposing piece. So you're not just transforming content, but you're kind of summarizing content. And of course, anytime any busy executive is going to think that's valuable. Thinking beyond our world, like the tech SaaS world, kind of looking at maybe like the big consumer world. So thinking about, and obviously folks in the quote unquote revenue capacity are more operationally minded. They don't have like salespeople. So like L'Oreal, for example, does this huge operation where they have like hundreds of products and hundreds of distribution channels. And, anytime any product changes, they need to like rewrite all of the content for that product, the mascara or the lip liner or whatever. And they need to make it, high quality, exactly accurate, SEO ready for all the various channels that I'm in, and needs to get done like right away. So, for like those like high guardian function, you don't have very much opportunity to make a mistake. But it's tedious and time consuming. Like that's a perfect use case for people who are in revenue operations and companies like that, because they can structure their output and get it done in seconds versus, weeks. So it's really meaningful to folks like that.
Jamie, it's actually
That answer
really
your question.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it did answer my question. I mean, there's so many questions. So
it's really interesting to hear you, Jamie, talk about like the usability and use cases. I was at a conversation yesterday at a fund as an LP, and it was a room full of CROs, and the person speaking, very, very well known, very well regarded. He's the managing partner of the fund, and we had like this kind of snapshot up there of like salespeople are going to be replaced in 12 months, like basically the de facto like. And they're like and everyone, 95% of the room sales is like whoa, like arguments going on. And I feel like I have a contrarian view where it's just like, wait a second, we need like sometimes less automation and more human connection, not more. Like totally. We need people talking to each other. That's actually what's fundamentally broken. We had a whole episode last week about motivation and how people and human connection. Yeah. So the interesting piece of this was that like talking as this person was kind of talking, he was talking about usability and what the usability cases were. And then the really interesting topic of innovator's dilemma came up, and Kodak and the digital camera, and kind of goes back to what Sam's saying, is like everyone's being pushed in every direction. And honestly, listening to you, hear you talk about it, there's so many fascinating opportunities here that it does feel like a lot of us are feeling like the Microsoft. We're like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to like do the 3-year project around it. But I'm actually just sitting here and I don't really have a question outside of being inspired by like how you're talking about this. It's actually, it's like, oh, we can go do this. We're going to do a hackathon tomorrow and it's all going to be on AI. We're going to figure this out. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I love that. I mean, I love that you're inspired. I mean, I think it's like scary and inspiring. I don't know that I buy into the whole like, oh, the salespeople are going. And by the way, I mean, I'm old, so I've heard that story 100 times. With, you know, like customer journey and PLG. And I have to say, like all the great companies that do PLG really well, not all of them, but a lot of them actually have really great salespeople too. So it's like you want a PLG journey because people like to learn on their own, but they also, I as a company owner or a company, executive, I really care about having salespeople who are like really smart and doing not the hand holding, managing the POC, but I want them like mapping the enterprise and figuring, out the strategy and, that kind of stuff. Like I want them to be like truly additive and using their very best brains for that work versus like hand holding stupid stuff, that we all have been through.
It's a really good point. Like if you look at like the top 100 banks in North America, do you envision them buying a cybersecurity solution without like interacting with the person? They don't even buy it if it's just virtual interaction. They want you to come and meet them in person. So it is hard to imagine like a complete shift where like you don't have salespeople, you just have like somebody else like on the data side doing things. Maybe in like 5-6 years, like we're all obsolete, who knows? But in the near term, it seems like a productivity type of uplift. Jamie, in your data that you just released, it was a fascinating report. One of the things that stood out was that IT is using it well, right? 30% of IT teams are using it, 18% of marketing teams are using it, and 15% of sales teams are using it. It could be that, GitHub Copilot's been around for a lot longer and is a little bit more sophisticated, so it has more adoption, and technology professionals, like developers, et cetera, lean into this stuff a little bit faster. And then the other part of it was that there was a 30% productivity uplift that a lot of people were getting from using it. And so Sam Altman talks about how think of it in the near term as an amplification tool, and your data is kind of backing that up. My question is that you as a marketing leader, now when you think of team formulation, right? Like you're in a new company, you're building a team. Are you thinking of building a team with 30% less people because of this uplift that you can get in productivity? Like, is that the implication?
Probably not. But I am thinking about who can help me win. And so there is a difference. It is changing my thinking, but not about number of people so much as it is type of skills. And so what I'm looking for now, I would always this, but especially now, is who is going to be curious and who's going to be a critical thinker. I think it sort of takes us back to basics, honestly. When we think about like liberal arts education, I think we, sometimes we poo-poo folks, that type of learning. And yet, if you look at who is really getting the most out of generative AI right now, and really just any AI, actually, it's people who really are the dig in types, people who know how to ask the question right and can learn from asking the question. They meta learn how to ask the question, and they also know how to look at output and say, this output makes sense, or this output doesn't quite work, and it can very easily sort of reverse engineer how the algorithm is working, and then they get what they need out of it. So it's like highly curious, highly empathetic, highly big critical thinkers, I think, are the, and of course they need to have the skills, like all the different, skills that you want on your team. But those are the people who are really going to do well.
Are those backgrounds specific to writer, or are you rethinking on just profiles in general across companies you advise and how they're interviewing folks as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm standing in at Writer, but I advise 5 companies. I'm on the board of one of them. And at any given time, it's like, 3 security, 2 cybersecurity, 1 kind of dev security, a network observability, and then Writer, which is like business AI kind of. So it's like I'm always thinking about how we up level and build and whatever is the challenge that we're trying to solve, on not just the marketing team but the business team. So yeah. And I think really across all of those companies, it's kind of the same problem, which is we've got this like massive innovation. How do we think about, and it's kind of having to be of 2 minds, right? It's not just how do I get leverage from this in my own company, but how do I think about it in terms of my product, and almost in a SWOT type of analysis. What are the strengths of it? How could I use it in my product? And then at the same time, is it threatening my product? And so there's just a lot of thinking to be done. And we want to make sure that we have those people. So I think it's not taking jobs, it's just restructuring the way that we're thinking about the people we hire.
Are you, Elon and Steve Wozniak and a bunch of other people have called for a 6-month pause on AI development. And you all have been working on this for a long time. And then Jeffrey Hinton resigned, the godfather of AI, resigned from Google and said he's worried about, what the implications of AI. Are you bullish or bearish? There's an argument to be made. It certainly seems like the pace of change around this particular technology is faster than previous technologies.
Well, everything you just mentioned happened in the last 30 days.
Exactly. That's my point. And there's an argument to be made that I'll make a few arguments, and I'd love your reaction, Jamie. The first is that maybe we are in sort of the part of the curve. We are in the singularity. Maybe it is the beginning of it. I always think about that, about how humans have difficulty understanding exponents, and a lily pad, a series of lily pads that doubles overnight. The pond was only half full the day before, and it was a quarter full the day before that. And so sometimes things that so I hear people saying, AI, well, it can't write a perfect screenplay. It's a pretty bad screenplay. I'm like, well, that's true. It couldn't write any screenplay at all 6 months ago, and now it can write a screenplay. So I guess my question is, are you worried? Are you worried that maybe you're contributing to the demise of human civilization and the overtaking of all human society by evil AI overlords by innocently being a fractional CMO for a company pushing forward generative AI? I'm being mostly facetious.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what's your take on sort of like the medium-term view of where we sit in this rapid evolution?
Right. And I appreciate that question. And I do think about the demise of civilization. And when I think of the demise of civilization, I think of threats like the loss of democracy. And I think of, authoritarianism rising throughout the world. And I think of climate change and people, climate creating massive migration, patterns, remigratization patterns, like with people leaving in droves. So that's my existential crisis. Maybe AI will help solve it. Maybe AI will contribute in meaningful ways to the demise. I think that there are a lot of really highfalutin thinkers like Elon Musk, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek. But for me, I have to just look at my customers and see, the person at an insurance company in Illinois who's, all of a sudden, getting twice the productivity.
Yeah, 3 times as productive. Exactly.
Perform. So I know it's like, I don't mean to just shove that question over my shoulder, but in the same way, I've got to think about just actual people in actual places living their lives. And, I think that, I'm thinking of one person in particular, and who, is like, I had a free weekend this weekend because I didn't have to do this same analysis that I usually have to do for my executives every third Monday or every fourth Monday. And so I didn't have to work this weekend because I was able to get it done by structuring, creating a template and structuring the data and getting it done.
Said all the CEOs are just at home worrying that all their employees are just sending them the analysis. So we're doing all the overthinking for everyone.
Hey, that's what I do. Don't tell May.
We've got a little bit of time left. So Jamie, I just want to say thank you for being our guest on the show this week. It was great chatting with you. Any last questions for Jamie while we've got her?
I'll throw one out. So we've spoken a bit about how AI is moving so quickly. Like every week, something comes up that like blows your mind. And I think of it from the shoes of an investor and a person looking for a job, like a professional, a CRO or CMO that are going to look for a job. And there are technologies that one week look spectacular, and then 2 weeks later, something comes up and you're like, well, that's done. Like AutoGPT. Prior to AutoGPT, there were 3 companies that I remember looking at and being like, wow, mind blowing. This is going to be $1 billion company. And after AutoGPT, I was like, they won't exist. And so what's a framework that you can share with people that they can use to make good choices about where they deploy their money or their time in this market that's evolving at a pace that I don't think we've ever seen in technology or in any other sector before?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I'll just tell you like a super quick story. My son, who is 17 and about to go to college, has a little business. He of all things makes music for rappers, and he started selling them on an e-commerce site, and then he got a little bit more highfalutin and started negotiating contracts, and he's got a bunch of commercial releases. And please do not pick any of the music, because it's like the lyrics are horribly misogynistic and terrible, but he's like, made a bunch of money, can like pay some of his tuition, which will be great for us. But the truth is, like, and he, we were kind of thinking about it, like, what am I going to study at school? And he wants to be in the music business. And my advice to him is like, look, that business is like tomorrow is going to be disintermediated. Like, so really think about the type of studying that you want to do. This is going to sound horrible, but if it is being disintermediated, you want to be the one to disintermediate it, not have it disintermediated for you. And so how you translate that then to, not that I can tell any of you about any kind of investing, but the way that I would the framework that I would use is really thinking about what is ripe for, what is tedious, what is a guardian function, what is, not efficient, all of those things are ripe for, and kind of always have been, it just that the rate of innovation is just faster now. But, so it's going to be a whole new set of things.
I really appreciate that you used highfalutin with Elon Musk and your son. So you had,
and also that he's misogynistic. You need to have a talk to your son. That's not right, Jamie.
No, I know. He's a good kid. Like he's it's a business. Wow. He loves.
Can we listen to him? Let's give him some promo.
I'll send you guys some
privately.
Yeah,
private. We cannot leave this episode without talking about AI and Monty Python.
Okay, yeah.
I know.
But you guys are going to be disappointed. Oh my God.
Why are we going to be disappointed?
Well, because so when ChatGPT first came out, one of my friends sent me like a Monty Python thing on LinkedIn, and I was like, this doesn't sound, and I am diehard. Like I know all the lines, I know I can do the movements, the Holy Grail and all the rest, and even the really arcane ones. And so I know, and it just doesn't sound like it. And even now that the models have improved a lot, like it still sounds not like Monty Python.
Gotta wait for ChatGPT 5, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Or
how far do you think we are from it getting good? Like if you were to look at that as the thing, do you think in a year it gets really good, or we're like far away from that?
I'm not the right person to make that prediction. I'm just not that good. I'm really good at banging two coconuts together, but I am not great at making predictions.
What is the airspeed of an unladen African swallow?
African or European? I do not.
right there with you.
Yeah.
Jamie, thanks so much for being our guest. If folks want to reach out to you, if they want to have a longer conversation, maybe they want to work with you in some capacity, what's the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn, Jamie C. Barnett, and Jamie C. Barnett at Twitter as well.
Awesome. Great chatting with you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you guys think as we wrap up? AJ, you have to run, right? You have to go pick up a kid or something?
Drop off a kid. It's okay.
Working. Dad, I love daddy. He's working. When he's working, he's working.
working. I find like her energy, she had a point of view that felt humanized in terms of how we're talking about it, which when you typically talk about generative AI, you get to the science pieces of it. But even at the end, saying, hey, I'm not the right person to answer that question. I really appreciated that. And it gave me a positive outlook. I don't know about you guys. What did you think? Asad?
I feel excited. Like I'm in a business, I'm in recruitment, right? And so there's like a big part of my community that thinks like, holy shit, like, will we exist? No. I just don't, I'm not in that school of thought. Like, I think this is going to be something that's a huge opportunity for us to capture more market share and get further ahead. I feel very excited about what this is in the near to medium term, right? I can't predict what happens in 4 or 5 years when it's ChatGPT 10. But I do know right now, and if I extrapolate this out a little bit, I think this will give people an opportunity to increase their productivity in a very interesting, exciting way and focus their time on the things that are the most fun to focus in on. I'll give you guys a story. So for me to be creative is usually at the first part of the day, right? Like somewhere from like 9 to 2 p.m. is when I'm creative. Usually at night, I'm not. And
well, you just said you're extremely high at night. So
yeah, I am creative. It's a different side of creative. So I'm trying to come up with this
stuff. The record button, by the way.
No, we said that when we were recording. All right, go ahead.
So I'm we're launching this newsletter and I had to come up with a name. And it was like 8 p.m. at night and I was just getting done with work. And I was like, let me see if I can come up with some names. And I couldn't, like my brain wasn't working. So I went on it and I was like, give me a bunch of names with this context. And then give me these names if the writer is Scott Galloway and then Kara Swisher and then Jim Collins. And so you got 50 names from there. None of them were the right names. But looking at that list at 9 p.m. at night on a Wednesday, I came up with the name, which I think is a brilliant name for the newsletter. And that's just something that it gave me. Like I couldn't have done that before. And so I'm excited. Like it's going to be a huge unlock of productivity for those who learn how to use it and use it well. And it's going to be disruptive, but that's fun.
So what's the name of the newsletter?
The Battle Card.
Oh, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, gangster name.
All right, here's my closing thoughts. I am super optimistic in the short term, similar to you guys. My observation, I was at a dinner Tuesday night talking mostly about AI, and my observation is the following, but this is neither good nor bad. This is just funny, maybe. We have a tendency as human beings, we're beautiful in many ways, but we're also so small. We're so small and provincial in the way that we think about things. And so you hear people, everybody, doesn't right or left, doesn't matter, make arguments. And the central point of the argument is, you'll never be able to take my special humanity away from me, right? And so you'll hear people make a very strong argument, AI will be able, but it can't ever replace creativity, and it can't ever, and again, to the point of like, well, the screenplay isn't very good, and there's many, I could write a better screenplay. So obviously, first of all, I think that there's like a massive up-leveling for all kinds of different people that aren't very good at expressing themselves in the same way that people now use calculators, and none of us can do, the 5 log 4 or whatever, some arcane calculation. We'll use computers to do that. And I think many people will use AI to express themselves more productively. But I also think that there's a world beyond, over the next hill where I guess I'm interested in a world where what if we didn't need to put ourselves at the center of it so aggressively? What if, because I hear people being really reductive, all it's doing, it's not knowledge. It's just predicting the next word in a sentence. And I'm like, well, but do you know how the brain works? Like, how do you know that that's not what the brain is doing? Like we don't know that much about thinking or creating original thought. We assume there's some magical source of inspiration and intuition and innovation that is only human, that can't be replicated. And my sense is that it probably can be replicated. And that doesn't give me depression or make me fearful. It makes me think that maybe the AI can take care of us, and it can be our mother, and we can play, and we can, go to dinner parties and drink wine, and we can enjoy ourselves, and I don't know that it needs to be that at the end of all of this, that humans, that we have created, we sort of contorted ourselves to creating this construction where humans are still preeminent and dominant, and it's still the Anthropocene. I think the next era after the Anthropocene is the era of AI. And I just wonder if we don't need to be, last thing I'll say is, we all run companies, and we've had coaches that say sometimes, you got to layer your VP of sales, you got to hire a CRO, and sometimes the organization outgrows, the needs of the organization outgrow the person in that role, the Peter principle. And we need to hire the new person that's more sophisticated. And so I just wonder aloud, are we being layered? Is the human race being layered? And maybe it's time. Maybe we can learn from our new boss. I, for one, am very supportive of the AI overlords. I'm here for them. I'm here to work for them. Whatever they need me to do, I'm willing to do.
That's a great. I wish what you were saying comes true. I would be very happy in that new world. This is a big discussion. Like, we should actually cover this in our next one.
We should.
With that, I am going to go take my daughter to gymnastics. And
good. Well, that's something the AI can never do.
Never replace. That's what I'm saying.
This has been episode 5 of Topline. AJ Bruno, CEO of QuotaPath. Asad Zaman, CEO of Sales Talent Agency. When is Battle Card or the Battle? How do we subscribe to the Battle Card?
You can subscribe on our website, on my LinkedIn profile.
Is it live now?
It's not. Next week.
Next week. AJ, give us something to sell. We want to buy something from QuotaPath. What would you like us to buy?
This is no joke, but on our founders channel, we have a hackathon going right now, and 2 of our engineers have a fantastic AI-driven deal forecasting project that's about to.
I love that.
World, and that happened during this filming of this show.
For Pavilion, we've got what I want people to think about is Enterprise CRO School. It's coming out in June, taught by Tim O'Neill, the CRO of Elation. CRO School is 101. If you are looking for 201, if you're looking to run an organization at scale north of 100 million, and you want to know how to forecast with 100 reps and design territories and drive 40-50% top line growth on 8 figures or 9 figures in revenue, I think you want to take Enterprise CRO School. Plus, we got our CRO Summit June 8th in London. Asad will be there. AJ will not. And of course, we've got GTM 2023 in Nashville. We'll talk to everybody next time. If you want to reach us, find us on LinkedIn. Give us 5 stars in the iTunes store if you could. Thanks to our sponsor, Contract Book. We'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
This episode of Topline was brought to you by Contract Book. Contract Book's holistic contract management platform allows businesses to scale with accessible, actionable, future-proof contracts. Step into the new era at contractbook.com and take control of your contracts for good.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Topline. To learn more about the trends, news, and developments impacting the world of B2B SaaS, head to joinpavilion.com, where more than 10,000 of the world's top go-to market leaders go to achieve and unlock their full professional potential.